Now that we've talked about some of the organizations that led to major changes about the idea of special education, now let's talk about legislation that moved us into the right direction of where we are at today. This information is very important to be aware of because these acts are responsible for the change in the way we treat people and students with mental disabilities. Section 504 of the Vocational Rehabilitation Act of 1973 basically states that no one can be denied programs or activities solely due to the fact that they have a disability. At first, this section specifically applied to discrimination in just employment, but it wasn't until 1974 that it extended its coverage to all rights such as education, employment, health, welfare, and other social services programs. Also under Section 504, all public elementary and secondary schools are required to provide a FAPE, which stands for Free Appropriate Public Education, to all students. This means that each student is going to receive the care and education he or she needs in order to be successful, regardless of the severity of their disability. Some confusion came to attention about the implementation of regulations. So a person is considered disabled under the definition of 504 if the individual has a physical or mental impairment that limits them of major life activities. And these life activities could include one or any of these: caring for oneself, speaking, hearing, manual tasks, breathing, learning, and having a job or working. Determining if a student is eligible for Section 504 must be based on the use of tests and other evaluations that evaluate specific areas of need, and not by solely one single test. The Americans with Disabilities Act states that child care centers are designated as public accommodations, which must be available to all who want to use them. The Act very specifically defines discrimination as this: segregation, inferior or less effective services, benefits, or activities, failure to make reasonable accommodations, and discriminatory qualifications and performance standards. People with disabilities should not be discriminated against or treated unequally when performing or participating in a job or activity. The Act was made even stronger in 2010 by the U.S. Department of Justice by making sure that there is access to medical care and service in the facilities where the care is being provided. So the entire facility, not just one part of the building, the entire facility must meet the needs of people with all disabilities. So these would include ramps, special transportation, and other things like that. So moving on to the most revolutionary legislation related to education, PL 94-142, the Education for All Handicapped Child Act of 1975. It says that all people between ages 3 through 18 must be provided a free, appropriate public education. If you ever hear someone talking about the term least restricted environment, they're talking about where the child will be placed in the classroom that will benefit them the most. So that would be like maybe in the classroom or in a different room, like a special needs room. This can also refer to moving the child with disabilities out of a regular classroom and into a resource room or self-contained special education room, like I said. Other terms you might hear are pull out or push in. Pull out services are those in which children with similar needs are pulled out of their regular classroom to meet with another teacher or a specialist for small group teaching. Push-in services are when a specialist is assigned to a child with disabilities and works with that child in their regular classroom. Often, the specialist will work with the child with disabilities as well as other students in the classroom. This type of service works because the child with disabilities has the opportunity to be in the classroom and interact with all their peers, but they also have the opportunity to receive the extra care that they might need at the same time. The Education of Handicap Act amendments of 1983 provides many services such as expanding services for children from birth through age 5, increased assistance to children who are deaf and blind, provided grants for transportational programs and transitional programs, excuse me. These can include services that help students transition from middle school to high school, or maybe high school to college, and things like that. The amendments also improve reporting and information spreading requirements and extended fiscal authorization for federal aid to state and local school systems through 1987. Last one, the amendments of 1986 PL 99-457 is infants and toddlers with disabilities. This law addressed easily recognized needs of very young children with disabilities. It established programs of early intervention services for infants and toddlers with handicaps and their families. So when I say early intervention, I mean that these services are meant for children who are very young, who have already shown developmental delays or disabilities, and they're going to get the care early enough so they can start developing and start developing on time, or trying to get back on track. These services are provided by the Department of Education, so if you are a parent and are worried about your young child possibly having a disability, you should first contact the local school to help you find these services. And some examples of these services would be public supervision at no or little cost, family training, counseling, physical therapy, and just in general meeting these needs of infants and toddlers who are having these delays and disabilities.